The Big 12 College Experience UCF Knights 2024 team preview edition of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up today using our promo code TCESGPN to score up to $1,000 in bonus cash. And we're also brought to you by, Rhythm. Get your 7-day free trial today by going over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM today. And welcome everybody into the Big 12 College Experience, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. UCF Knights, a.k.a. the Central Florida very, very golden shiny Knights. Yeah, that'll get them going early and often. Can't wait to talk about this team. We got some high expectations for this team in 2024, coming off their inaugural year in the Big 12. I think we all agree the program is trending upward. But first, I am Moneyline Mac, a.k.a. the former video coordinator for Bob Huggins and Frank Martin. And we're talking Big 12, so we got to bring in the walking contradiction himself because he was born in Provo, Utah. He's got family in Ames, Iowa. He lives in Morgantown, West Virginia. Co-host of the Ryan and Rush Show, Rambling Rush. Rush, how about the Knights?
Yeah, gonna be a good season for them. Well, hopefully. They're at least always entertaining. This is the team that's either 10-2 or 6-6, and there's no in between. Excited for year 2 of them. See what Malzahn has cooking up. Obviously, KJ Jefferson joins the equation, but hey, a little disappointing for them last year. They still made a bowl game in the Big 12, but need to see what they're capable of, especially going to colder weather in those later months.
They are going to the colder weather. We'll break down the schedule. We'll talk odds. We'll talk offense, defense, portal, Gus Malzahn. But first, third man in the box, you guys know him as the Big 12 guru because he's got, a family civil war going on, whether it's in Stillwater, Waco, Fort Worth, Orlando at the Bounce House, or Cincinnati. He is the green mowing, weed growing Troy Chewning. What is up, Troy?
What's going on? That's Rush. That's the only Big 12 newcomer to make a bowl game, actually. Out of all the new schools that came in, UCF did go bowling in year 1, which you got to say it's kind of a step up in competition for them to come in. And, you could see some of the games where they were just physically outclassed. You could see some of the games where they got gassed at the end. But, you also saw them kick the living shit out of a team that made the Big 12 championship and then add kind of all of the needs that outside of just players. Even going and getting a new defensive mind and whatnot that has worked with Malzahn before. It just seems like this is a boom or bust year for UCF. This is going to be an all or nothing year for them. Like you said, I don't know if there's going to be much in between. 10 wins, 6 wins.
To counter that a little bit, and I do like UCF. I'm glad they're part of the Big 12. This isn't me hating on them. Their 6 wins were in the Big 12. Obviously, their 3 non-con wins. 2 of them were against Cincinnati and Houston, who they just played in the American the following year. And then, of course, they did beat Gundy, but we all called that schedule loss. So, hey, I do want them to take a big step this year. I'm really glad they're in the conference, but got to return it a little bit back to you, Troy.
And we gotta get prepared for those arguments later this year too, because the 9, 10, 11, 12 seeds in the college football playoff are all going to be teams that lost every big game that they had, but they're going to be like, we only lost by a touchdown to the number 3 and the number 7 team. We deserve to be in the playoffs. So, the quality losses is what increased their strength of schedule, I guess. They're finally figuring out the SEC method. If you have quality losses, you can really do something in college football.
It's almost as good as a win. I'm just giving you a hard time because I'm still mad about BYU going 5-2 and not making a bowl game. So
Well, and we'll paint the picture for UCF because there's a case where they could have been like 9-3 with some of those close losses.
Yeah,
but
true.
On the other side, first we got to talk about, everything's in the merch stores. 10% off football season. It's here. Use the promo code football Look at this fucking sweet hat I got. College Experience camo version. Get on over there. 10% off. Can't beat it. And if you just want to eat shit Pitt shirt, they got those as well because Pitt sucks. So get on over there at the SGPN store. Plus, college football kicks off in less than a week now, 5 days, week 0 coming up. Tune into the Sports Gambling Podcast and the College Football Experience for week 0 picks and all your favorite futures today. All right, let's talk Coach Malzahn. Coach Malzahn enters year number 4 at UCF, 24-16. Last year was his first losing season, I think ever, is including his days in the middle school ranks. But 101-54 overall as a head coach, did a great job at Auburn, in my opinion. I mean, he played Saban as well as anybody. Rush, your thoughts on just the Malzahn era, year 2 in the Big 12, but year 4 overall down at the Bounce House?
Yeah, when we were talking on the Ryan and Rush show with the Sons of UCF, Adam, great guy. Go check out what they're doing. They're fantastic podcast. They really do a good job. He brought up a great point. Is we all think of kind of Malzahn from the Auburn Cam Newton national championship, right? And then you forget that was 11 years ago. And because it all just comes so fast. So I think we always go to that as like Malzahn when that was kind of more of the outlier than really what he did regularly, not to take anything away from him. So I think sometimes when it comes to Malzahn, our expectations are a lot higher than what they really should be. I think you kind of saw that a little bit with Colorado last year, winning those first 3 games. And we're like, oh my gosh, they're incredible. And then obviously they basically lose the rest of them besides one, right? I don't think our expectations are set right for him. However, in terms of just generally speaking, he's a fantastic coach. He still kind of has that old school mentality that we really like to see from football coaches. He's a leader. He can just sometimes be his own worst enemy. It's like he gets just so fired up and he gets these ideas in his mind. And then it seems like sometimes his game plan's very forced. And it's like he's not feeling the game itself and making adjustments based off of those feelings. So great coach. Hopefully they take a nice jump this year. We're kind of expecting it now that they have KJ Jefferson, but it's just kind of more into feeling the game. But he really feels this team this year. So we'll see.
Troy, you're a big fan of Mr. Malzahn. What's your thoughts so far on this era?
Well, I mean, I know you guys and the listeners have heard me say this before, but like the best guys and the biggest scumbags are the guys that you don't want as coaches. But the dude that can toe that line, that's like kind of a scumbag, but also like still gets a lot of performance out of his players. That's where Gus Malzahn fits right in there. Like Gus Malzahn would be the kind of guy that would say, if one of his players got in trouble for driving on bath salts, that he's done that 1,000 times. It's not a big deal. and he would take the pressure. And it is kind of a good thing for the college kids when you have a head coach that all the pressure is going to be on Gus. He's won a national title before, and they know that even if the expectations aren't really that realistic, he's going to bear the forefront of the issues. Like even if you're KJ Jefferson and you transfer into UCF, you don't play as well as people are expecting you to, the blame's still going to be on Gus Malzahn. So it is kind of nice to have a shield like that. I don't think it is anything near like a hot seat or whatnot. This is probably one of the better coaches that UCF is going to be able to get ever as a program. Not an act to them. I just think Gus Malzahn's a hell of a college football coach. Goes and gets Ted Roof to be the defensive coordinator. He was the DC with them when they won in 2010 at Auburn. And then you go get a quarterback that's got basically all the measurables of the one outlier year that you had at Auburn. You also had an outlier of a quarterback that was just a linebacker or like an oversized safety playing behind center. Well, it's not going to help the expectations when you go get a dude that fits all the measurables of that exact outlier, and you go get the defensive coordinator from that team. Like I said, it seems kind of go for brokey here for UCF. I think they're really trying to make a splash in a new league and really show that they're going to be a week-to-week competitor for, future recruiting purposes. But Gus as a coach, he's a crazy motherfucker, and those are the guys that you want.
That he is. And so let's get right into their offense. You mentioned it. They bring over KJ Jefferson, 4-year starter at Arkansas. Had his flashes up and down for the most part. A couple years ago, I thought he was playing at a really high level, a little bit of regression the last couple years. But I liked Rise Plumlee, but I feel like this is an upgrade just because I think the ceiling is higher. And Rise Plumlee, he was always hurt. So I like the addition of Jefferson. Rush, what's your takeaway on this offense where it seems like the skill positions are going to be electric again?
Yeah, they're really excited at the skill positions. Going back to our conversation with Adam at Sons of UCF, they're definitely looking to make that next step this year. Of course, big thing if they can stay healthy, offensive line coming in. I mean, the only one you have that's different is KJ Jefferson, and we have a solid body of work with him from the SEC. So the offense is really supposed to be taking that next step. They have all the puzzle pieces. They have all the continuity from times past. I mean, there really is no excuses not to be able to perform. Very dynamic offense. I mean, we keep talking about it. It seems like I'm a broken record, or we're a broken record by talking about each team's running game. But they have it, especially with a dynamic quarterback. My concern with KJ Jefferson is, and I brought this up before, he either has those games where he's unstoppable with running the ball, throwing the ball. My concern is if he's not able to lead his receivers open, like they don't have that solid college football opening that receivers that the quarterbacks have the biggest trouble who jump to the NFL, where you kind of have to throw your receivers open. If his receivers are not open and everyone in the world kind of knows that he's just running the ball, that's where you kind of start to see him turn into a shell of himself. And those games are going to happen. So in those games, I know we'll talk about the defense here. Is the defense able to step up? Is Malzahn able to change that game plan? Can a running back step up? So the question here, and when we get to the record, is when KJ Jefferson has those games, who is going to step up? And if someone else steps up, or a different person, when those games occur, this UCF team will be really good this year. But that's why, too, this UCF team could also be 6-6. It comes down to KJ Jefferson and his ability to, I really think it's passing the ball. Can he pass and throw guys open? That is the X factor on offense for this team.
Troy, I know you're high on Jefferson and you're high on the skill guys on the offense. Over on the defensive side, can this group take a step forward? Because this is kind of where they wore down. They wore down in the trenches, and we'll talk about they blew 4 games in the second halves last year. The Oklahoma game comes to mind, where they were the better team, in my opinion, that day in Norman, and they gave it away late. The Baylor game where they blew like the 30-point lead in the third quarter. They even had the lead at K-State early in the year. Texas Tech, they blew the lead late too. The game that really, I mean, they kind of got dominated at Baylor. Kansas. No. They blew the 30-point lead. The only game where I felt like they were physically dominated from start to finish was the West Virginia game. I thought they just couldn't stop that offensive line, Garrett Green and the running backs. But other than that, they kind of held their own. They just ran out of gas because they weren't good enough in the trenches. Do you think they did enough in the portal where they can take a step here, Troy?
Well, it looks like their strategy in the portal since they brought in Ted Roof, and he's been known to be pretty good with linebackers. So it looks like their portal strategy for the linebackers were to, get some experienced guys that they might not have the best measurables, but you're really looking for guys that can stop the run compared to what UCF had last year. Obviously, their biggest issue was the teams in the Big 12, as we've talked about over and over again, that can churn the ball, will churn the ball. So you see their strategy on offense is like, yeah, we do want to get to this physical power running game. But if that's the case, we need to be able to stop, at least maybe slow down a physical power running game in our face. But, they're going to be looking at that defensive line to be their big game breaker. I mean, they get Ricky Barber and Lee Hunter back, who kind of dominate the D-line. Malachi Lawrence kind of came on near the end of the year last year. I think he got to like 6 or 7 sacks on the season. They're just they're going to be hoping that their experience on the back end of the defense can kind of mesh if they're getting a pass rush and it doesn't force them, to cover for too long or allow teams to just run it right up their face and, turn games on their head when it looks like you have pretty good control, which when we talk about UCF last year, there's 3 games right away. You could see them winning 9 games last year just with 3 1-point losses. But that's the difference between the level of being able to finish games in the American and then when you play, like Rush said, some of these actual teams that are not just American foes, the actual Big 12 opponents that you play. And at the end of the game, you're kind of crumpling down and it looks like the other team has another gear. You just have to realize that the physicality of this league is what it is. It's not, just like Gus said in the media days, it's not the 7-on-7. We can pick you apart with passing anymore. That occurs, but the teams that are really good are the ones that can control the ball. And it looks like UCF wants to become that, and it looks like they want to stop that. But again, there's so many transfers on the back end that we're going to have to see how they play.
I completely agree, and it's
definitely
really
the most worrisome unit, though. Like if there was a unit that was going to cause the issue again, it would be the defense.
Yeah, I'm fascinated. I'm really fascinated to see this team and how they mesh. Real quick, we got to talk about our sponsor over here at the College Experience, aka the Big 12 Experience, because we're brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Pick them because you can win 1,000 times your original entry. Play fantasy football with their best ball mania. Troy, I know you've been gearing up, ready to rock and roll for some underdog plays again. It's that time of year. And by the way, they have higher lowers for the whole season on some of these guys over at Underdog. And go check out me and Nick's NC Nick's best ball draft where we drafted. I had a bunch of Big 12 guys, aka Garrett Green as well, and a bunch of other Big 12 guys. But Troy, what's catching your eye over there with Underdog?
Well, I had already placed a different ticket on this guy, so we'll just go ahead and build off of it for the Nats game that I'll be at in a few hours. We're going to go higher on a spicy James Wood home run, and we're going to go higher on 1.5 total bases for CJ Abrams. Those two together is almost 13x.
Okay, I like it. We'll do that tonight. They're playing the Rockies. And then next week, we will give out our first Big 12 lineup, Underdog lineup for week 1. So make sure you subscribe to all channels where we'll dive into that on the other side. So, Underdog Fantasy, and use that promo code right above me, TCESGPN, to claim your special first-time deposit offer up to $1,000 now. It's not $250, $1,000 in bonus cash. Underdog Fantasy, promo code TCESGPN. And we're also brought to you by Circa Millions and Circa Survivor. Get on over there. This weekend is the big contest weekend with Ryan and Sean out there. Use our promo code SGP15 to save 15% on your hotel for the sign-up weekend to save you a couple bucks. If you can't get out there between now and September 7th when the season starts, well, you can play with our proxy. Just go over to proxy.footballcontest.com to save you $50 off with the promo code SGP. And, hell, you get a free hat over there. Let's go. All righty, we are back on the Big 12 College Experience, and let's dive right into it because the odds for the UCF Knights over-under set at 7.5, plus 950 to win the Big 12, 500 to 1 to win the national championship. First glance, I'd probably lean over, but I think it comes right down to that 7-8 range. I know I'm not going out on a limb much there. So, Rush, where do you lean here early for the schedule?
Got to make sure I don't Benedict myself. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I think I have him at 7-5, 6-6 from Colby Show. I like I said, it comes down to one thing this season: can KJ Jefferson throw receivers open? And if he can do that, I mean, we are talking dark horse Big 12 championship. But I won't ruin it for UCF fans like I did Texas Tech and Baylor last year. I'll stay away from that prediction game for you guys. But I'm leaning slightly under, but I wouldn't be surprised either way. I think this team is like the biggest question mark in the Big 12.
I'm hammering this over. I'm buying in. I know I said it on the main show that we did. One of the locks that I gave out was this over 7.5 for UCF. I see them starting pretty hot and maybe getting more than 3 wins before, like last year, they go into a 5-game losing streak after starting 3-0. I don't know if we're going to see that again this year. I think the 8 wins is almost comfortable. I mean, I'll also take the plus 950 on them to win the Big 12 as well.
I definitely think that's worth the odds. I mean, you can make the argument you go under and you take a little sprinkle of the Big 12 to have yourself covered on both sides of it. Let's start with the non-con. They open up at the Bounce House. They're going to beat New Hampshire by about a zillion like they did to Kent last year. And then they got Sam Houston. We both got them or all three of us got them 2-0.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is a big game for this total at TCU week number 3. This is basically a fucking toss-up, man. I went the Frogs on the TCU one, so I'm going to stick with it. No reason to Benedict. I'll go TCU 2-1 for UCF for me.
I have them winning this game. I'm still scarred by TCU's run defense against Colorado last year, and I think UCF can run the ball better than Colorado. And then they go and add KJ, which, even more power run game. I don't know if the Horned Frogs have enough right off the bat in the beginning of the year. Maybe if they add some more momentum, but at this point, I think I'm going to take UCF to go 3-0.
This game for me, I said it on the TCU, and I picked TCU in this just because that they're the home team. Or did I? I went back and forth on this game.
You went UCF. You flipped.
That's right. I flipped it last. Troy talked me into it. All right, I'll say UCF there. Basically, why this game is such a coin flip to me. Winner of this game hits the over. Loser is the under. I think already in week 3, between a TCU team and a UCF team that are obviously TCU trying to return to glory. I mean, UCF's trying to return to glory. They're kind of first and make themselves prominent in this Big 12 that no longer features Texas and Oklahoma. This is the game in week 3. And yeah, I'll stay UCF then. But man, this is going to be a grinded out game. I'm really looking forward to that one. I think it's on Fox, right? 7:30.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I can't.
Yeah,
this is a big game. Big game, especially going into the bye week. Out of the bye week, they get Colorado. I got them handling Colorado down there in Orlando. Deion's returned to Florida.
I have them beating Colorado as well. I don't know. This might be the first game that UCF plays where the talent of the other team might be a little bit better than them. But when it comes to Gus Malzahn versus Deion, I don't know if that's even really a contest at this point in time in the college football world. And it's at the Bounce House. I know Colorado is going to be kind of scary when they're playing at home, but I don't really see them putting up too much of a fight on the road too often, to be honest. I hope the Colorado fans call me a hater because I am. Colorado stinks. UCF's winning this game. Suck it, Colby.
I think they go 1-1 in this Colorado at Florida stretch. They win both of them. Yeah, we're definitely talking Big 12 here, but I mean, I think they start strong too. The thing you got to be concerned about with this UCF team is we start getting to this latter part of the schedule. They got some home games still, which is good, but I guess you only have 2 cold weather games, Ames and West Virginia. I mean, at Arizona State. Actually, yeah, I know where I was last week. I'm starting to come around on this UCF team. I might end up, as all that under talk, end up hitting the over here. I'll go after Florida. They'll be 4-1. That's all I'll say. That's my best feel on it.
I think Florida's going to beat them. As much as I want to pick UCF, I think everybody's the hatred for Florida, the bashing of Florida's gone a little bit far. They still have some dudes on that team, so I think Florida's going to beat Miami week 1, and I think they're going to beat UCF here. So give me Florida over UCF. I got UCF at 3-2. They've won all their home games, lost their 2 road games. Troy,
5-0. They get their easiest non-con. They get their easiest non-con this late in the season. Whoa. Great scheduling by UCF here. Actually, it is, once again, it's one of those like all or nothing kind of things. You throw Florida into this schedule in week 6, and if you're able to win this game on the road in the Swamp, everything changes. The whole idea of this team just being hype then becomes like, no matter how good Florida really is or isn't, just beating that team in state up on the road, they finally give you a chance to play them.
Bragging rights.
I think this means a lot for the UCF program, and I mean, Florida obviously has talent. They get to recruit Florida, but so does UCF. And I don't know. I don't see a lot in Gainesville right now. There's not too much hyping me up in the preseason, getting me ready to go. Whereas UCF's out there saying, this is it. This is our year. We're gonna get it done. And again, I'm falling for it. 5-0.
5-0. Rush 4-1. I'm 3-2. Then you get 3 out of 4 at home. The next 2, they're Cincinnati at home, at Iowa State. I got them splitting. I got them winning at home again and losing on the road. They're not winning in Ames.
No, they're not.
Not on that slow grass
they
against that really good defense. No, not happening. Not in October when it's windy. That wind's gonna drag this UCF little bounce house offense into the mud.
That grass is about to be half an inch higher than it should be. Oh, shoot. The long guy got sick. We forgot to mow it. Oh, man. How did that
KJ
happen?
Jefferson don't play the cold. Iowa State all day. 4-3 for me. Rush 5-2. Do you have him 7-0, Troy?
No, I do have them losing to Iowa State. Because of how well they should be able to run the ball, that might be a closer, grinded out game than you think. And UCF might be in the position where 1 or 2 KJ Jefferson plays and maybe a little bit of sophomore regression from Rocco. They could win that game. I will give it to Iowa State because the bridge power in Ames does affect things in the grass. They get the U.S. Open crew to come in there for the tough games and just decide like, we do want to keep it pretty thick and lush. I have them 6-1 after the Cincinnati Iowa State stretch.
6-1, Rush 5-2. I'm 4-3. Here's a big one: BYU at home, and then Arizona at home. I think they're going to get both. I think they're really good at home. I think that's a tough place to play, especially late in the year. Give me UCF to get to, what would that be? 6-3 with 3 to go.
I have them splitting. I think I picked Arizona in the Arizona preview, but if they're beating BYU at home and they've got Arizona coming in and they're at 6-2 or 7-1. I think that's a really dangerous spot for Arizona at the time, and then for UCF afterwards. I could see that being like an early climactic game in the season where they're hoping for something bigger, and then they get thrown this 6-2, 7-1 opportunity to play. Hopefully, at the time, still ranked Arizona. I wouldn't be surprised if they won both of these because they are at home, like Max said. But I'll go ahead and give them the split for the sake of I did have them starting 5-0. So there's got to be a few losses in here, I guess.
Yeah.
They don't play Oklahoma State, though. I guess I could pick them to go 12-0.
Two 12-0 teams. So Troy has them 7-2 headed into Arizona State. Rush.
I know these are both home games. I think BYU has a very solid chance at UCF. I think they're going to travel well to that game in Orlando. I think it's Halloween weekend.
Take over Disney World.
Oh, they might. Good chance that happens. Oh, they could. And then Arizona, but the week before they have West Virginia in Arizona. I'm actually going to go 0-2 here. I know they're home games.
You think BYU's actually going to win at the bounce house?
They could. It depends if they beat Oklahoma State the week before or not. They'll split that. I absolutely think BYU can win there. BYU wins the games they shouldn't. You got to think backwards with BYU. They lose the games that they shouldn't too. I mean, who knows what this team's looking like? I think BYU could win this game.
So what do you have them then? 5-4?
Yeah. Yeah, I got to stick. Geez, this UCF team, man,
I know.
The more I look at it, the schedule is actually not bad. Do you know what? Screw it. I'll have them splitting it. We'll say what's that?
Yeah, just say they'll beat Arizona and lose to BYU.
It'll probably be the opposite. BYU will beat Oklahoma State before this, and they'll be getting ready for Utah. They'll beat BYU, lose to Arizona.
So 6-3.
Yeah, we'll go 6-3.
6-3, 6-3. Troy 7-2. Upset. Arizona State gets them in Tempe. It's their 7th game in 7 weeks because they have the biggest discrepancy in their bye. They have a bye September 21st, and then they don't have a bye for 2 months. They get them in a sleepy spot here. Arizona State pulls the upset.
It won't matter to a Gus Malzahn team that runs and runs and runs and runs. I actually wouldn't be surprised to see KJ Jefferson look a little light in week 1 compared to, he's going to be listed at like 258 or something like LeBron style numbers. Gus Malzahn makes teams run, and in practice, that's all they do is they go high tempo nonstop just to be prepared for the worst case scenario, and because that's what they want to do. I don't think Arizona State has the athletes. Thinking about the spot does matter. All those games in a row could 100%. It couldn't just be fatigue too. They could have a couple of guys banged up by the time they get to Arizona State, and maybe they try to tough it out for the Arizona game and think like purposefully sleepwalk into it. But I'm going to take them to beat Arizona State here. At this point in time in the season, looking maybe Big 12 title.
8-2 for Troy, 6-4 for me. Rush, are you in the middle?
No, I'll join you at 6-4. I actually
6-4?
think it's going to end rough here for them.
Well, because then they get the bye, then they got to go to Morgantown in late November. That's a loss. A Florida team is not winning in Morgantown in November. 6-5 for me.
Yeah, if UCF goes to Morgantown and wins this game, then they're fucking for real.
100%.
Like if they go to if UCF goes to Morgantown and wins this game, you got to take them to win the Big 12, and possibly beat Utah the week afterwards. To be completely honest, but no, I will give West Virginia this win. November 23rd in Morgantown, and you never know. The bath salts could keep you warm. I don't have much experience with those, but they do some crazy shit down there in Florida, man. It's not quite Morgantown though. See, that's where it's a whole step up to a different league when you get up there in the hills and the hollers. I'll take West Virginia in this one.
Oh yeah, West Virginia all the way. The more I'm thinking this out, I know I've been a little bit all over the place. Like I said, UCF's the biggest question mark of any Big 12 team, in my opinion. This feels like a very they win like their first 6 out of 7, and then they lose their last 5 out of 6 or something. However, the math adds up there. Loss against BYU could be their last win. I'll take a loss against West Virginia as well, coming up to Morgantown that late in the season.
And the most Gus Malzahn thing ever, UCF beats Utah the last week to prevent Utah from going to the Big 12 title in Dallas on a Friday night. So give me 7-5 for the Knights for me.
Yeah, I think this is one of those. It's been nationally televised on the schedule before they even announced weeks 1, 2, and 3. They already had Utah UCF on the national TV. This could be the accidental your mark here, where they've got everything set up for Utah to, represent the Big 12, finally get in the playoff. Maybe we even get 2 teams, and fucking KJ Jefferson throws for 200 and runs for 150 on Utah. Yeah, I'm going to take them in the bounce house to beat this team. That'll be what, 9?
Yeah, you got them 9-3.
9-3.
That would be right there with tiebreakers to get to the Big 12 title.
Yeah, I think they can beat Utah here. I'm joining you, Mac. 7-5 just feels right to me. It just,
a true BYU fan that is more confident in them beating Utah than BYU. And it makes sense too, because BYU wins those games that you think they have no shot in, and they get rocked in the games that you're like, this is the one.
That's my logic there. I think BYU beats Oklahoma State in Provo the week before, and so everyone will be like, "Oh wow, beat Gundy. We can go in UCF. We'll get some good crowd there, and then it's like 40-7. UCF wins. I've seen it a million times. I think that's a more likely scenario. But I agree with your point though. Regardless if it was Utah or not, like this could be what Yormark wanted last year with Texas Tech and Texas, but he accidentally gets it a year later, and then UCF prevents Utah and two teams from the Big 12 making it into the college football playoff. Yeah, I'll take UCF against Utah. I think that's right.
Gotta love it. All right, we'll talk ceiling, floor on the other side, but college football is here. Get on over there to Rhythm, baby. Rhythm uses AI projections with the data scientists. NFL Week 1 here, college football. Week 0 starts on Saturday. I like Georgia Tech in the Dublin game with the points. I think we'll get a close one there. So claim your 7-day free trial today by going over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That is the sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. And we're also brought to you by Game Time. Game Time's our favorite over here at the Big 12 College Experience. UCF fans, if you want to get down and go to the Bounce House and check out a game this year, well, make sure you do so through Game Time because, some of those other sites, they'll pull one on you. So Game Time won't, though, because they'll show you exactly where you're sitting and give you the flash tickets right there, right to your phone, so you know exactly where you are. No obstructive view. Use our promo code CFBX so that you can get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account or redeem code CFBX. Download the Game Time app. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Okay, so we're going to talk floor and ceiling, and this might be the highest discrepancy. Maybe Colorado's the other one. Colorado and UCF. It must be the black and gold teams this year where the extreme variance with these two teams. The floor, 5-7. I think they could miss a bowl. This is kind of a hard schedule, in my opinion.
I actually think 6-6. I don't think they're 5-7 bad. I think the schedule's too good for them in the beginning, and I think some of those early games, like the TCU one, obviously is a big wild card. I feel good about them against Florida. And I know, Ryan, we joke back and forth. I can't stand Mertz. I think Billy Napier. I think Napier's like ceiling is like being a solid, like what he was at Louisiana, like just a solid, just mid-major coach that's dependable. I'm not high on Florida. I think they can win that game. I think they can win Colorado early. I got to think they at least squeak out 6 wins.
They do have 2 slam dunks, their first 2 games. Troy, what's your floor?
Well, even if they were to lose all 5 away games, I could see them still only losing 1 home game. So 6-6.
Yeah.
But I feel like they probably eke out at least 1 of those away games, if not 2. But even if we go with just 1, I think 6-6 is probably your floor.
You guys are right. You swayed me. They have 7 home games versus the 6. For some reason, I thought they had a 6 road game. So I'll go 6-6. The ceiling is
12-0.
I was going to go 11-1.
11 wins, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, they're not winning at the Swamp, in Ames, and in Morgantown. They're not winning at all 3 of those.
I would almost even say that it's probably more like 10-2 because even if you only win 1 of those 3, that's still probably successful. And if you are able to win 2 and get to 11-1, I mean, that's why it's the ultimate ceiling. But I feel like 10-2 would be a very, very successful season. And with those 3 away games, just winning 1 of them, because I think you can probably pretty much rule out that November 23rd game at West Virginia. I think you gotta win either at the Swamp or at Ames. Both pretty tough places to get done, but winning both of those isn't. I don't think it would be considered completely out of the picture. So I guess 11-1 is the ultimate ceiling here.
I'll go 9-3. I think Morgantown and Ames are losses, and then I got to think there's one more in there somewhere. Whether it's one of I think they'll lose a TCU, Colorado, or Florida game. That's one, or one of the BYU, Arizona State, Utah games, even though some are at home, like a West Coast. I got to think there's another just UCF doesn't show up game type loss. I'm going to go 9-3.
Yeah, I mean, the floor scenario is if they still are not there from a program standpoint in the trenches. Their ceiling is if they hit on all these guys in the trenches and then they get some luck on the regression and the turnover margin and they win the close games, kind of like TCU did 2 years ago, instead of lose them like they did last year. So, all right. So Troy's on the over. Rush and I both lean under. Not a strong lean. Troy, you love plus 950 to win the Big 12.
I love plus 950 to win the Big 12, especially with a chance to beat Utah in the last week. And maybe it's a control your own destiny tiebreaker. Like there might be a bunch of other scenarios if Utah wins, but there could be a scenario where UCF hasn't played Oklahoma State and also not Kansas State. So them beating Utah could be a really big wrinkle that maybe before the game we figure it out that UCF just has to win and they're in the Big 12 in the Big 12 championship. So I like that 950. I think it's pretty good value for an experienced head coach with an experienced quarterback and a really good run game in a league where those are the things that you need to win. So I just see, a couple of cards falling in their direction.
Yeah.
Love it. Do you sprinkle in KJ Jefferson to win the Heisman too? I assume that's in your portfolio.
It's kind of him being on that short list is kind of a necessity for them to win 9 games, I think.
Yeah.
I think I agree with you. All right. Well, that does
maybe
it for
RJ Harvey too.
RJ Harvey, he's electric as well. That does it for the Knights. Next up is going to be the Utes. Troy, what you got going on before we get up on out of here?
Getting ready to go downtown and watch James Wood clobber another home run, hopefully 420 feet.
Rush, we got a bunch of stuff going on.
Oh yeah, we got a lot. We're gonna finish the rest of our Big 12 previews on the Ryan and Rush show this week, even going into the weekend. So check us out over there. Brent brought in a lot of local media people for each of these previews. So go into the details a little more. Tonight we're going live with who are we going live? Arizona, newcomer Arizona, 7:00 Ryan and Rush show tomorrow. We'll be live with Kansas State. And then we got the rest of the week, some pretty big names coming on. So really excited that. And then next week, boys, we're talking matchups and games and West Virginia, Penn State being one of those. So the calm before the storm and some week 0 this week too. So we're almost there, guys. Almost there.
We are almost there. Go check out the college basketball experience as well. Going live here with Coach Kearns of App State, and Noah and I will be breaking down the Maui field and all the other MTs because college basketball is releasing their schedules this week as well. Of course, the week the football starts. So gotta love college athletics. They don't know how to time fucking anything. But hey, check out all our channels, the college football experience with Colby, all 134 team previews. Go check out our Big 12 preview last week with him as well. We all come together on youtube.com/the college experience. He is at Rambling Rush. He's at Troy Chewning. I'm at Moneyline_Mac. We are the Big 12 college experience. And we are out of here. Utah Utes.